Residents seek justice for slain woman in Kaduna State. Police rescue abducted commuters in Ondo State. Reps to investigate inferior Dangote fuel allegations orders new tests. On the foreign scene, scores killed in clashes between Somali forces and Al-Shabaab. Hello and welcome to the News Hour on Trust Television. I am Aisha Salihu. Residents of Kabala Road are still mourning the killing of a 27-year-old woman by an unidentified person at her residence on Friday evening. The deceased, simply identified as Aisha, who was found in a pool of blood in her room by neighbors, later died after being rushed to the hospital. Trust TV's Bello Musa, who visited the residence of the deceased, reports that neighbors of the deceased are still confused over the way and manner she was killed. The report.
Aisha and her husband are origin of Sokoto State, but relocated to the community about 7 months ago. Let Aisha, her husband, her 2 children and stepchildren live in this house. Baba Gana, a neighbor to Aisha, was among the first persons that saw Aisha in a cold blood.
We were at home when we heard that she was killed in her house. As a reserved person, her house is always locked, but we were told that someone forced himself into her room, stabbed her with a knife, and killed her. She was not dead at the time, so she was rushed to the hospital where she eventually died.
Sanu Umar, who was not at home when his wife Aisha was killed, was notified of the incident via phone. What happened has happened. I was not at home when I received a call that someone broke into my house and killed my wife. We are suspecting that the killer is a phone snatcher. The incident happened between 4 and 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Family members and well-wishers of late Aisha described her as one who lived in peace with her neighbors. She was a good wife and we never quarreled because she took good care of me. I pray that God will grant her soul eternal rest. Although the initial suspicion is that Aisha was killed by an unknown phone snatcher, community members, however, revealed that her phone was later found in the ceiling. Her phone was later found in the ceiling in the early hours of the next morning, so it is obvious that the person was not after her property. Although Aisha was killed on Wednesday evening, residents of the area who are still confused about the way and manner she was killed are demanding a thorough investigation by the police. It is now left for the authorities concerned to swing into action and find the culprit, because there were evidence like the knife and the blood stains. The husband and the entire family are now in Sokoto, where they joined other family members and friends to mourn the departed Aisha. While confirming the incident, the public relations officer of the Kaduna State Police Command, ASP Masur Hassan, said the Commissioner of Police has ordered a full investigation into the incident in order to arrest the suspect. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Still on security matters, a sergeant of the Nigerian police force has shot dead his father in the Tudu area of Maduganari community behind the Borno State Police Command headquarters in Maiduguri. The officer, identified as Linus Wadzani, was said to have shot his father multiple times. Wadzani is a mobile police personnel with Mopol 6 Maiduguri and serves as a security at the Borno State House of Assembly. While briefing journalists at the Borno State Police Command, the spokesman of the command Kenneth Dasso, said the deceased was a retired assistant superintendent of police who served at the state command with the mounted unit. Narrating how the incident happened, Dasso said Sergeant Linus got home at about 4:30 p.m. and had a heated argument with the father. This led him to fire the father multiple times with an AK-47 rifle, resulting in his instant death. He said on interrogation, Sergeant Linus confessed to being under the influence of alcohol and other hard substances. The Ondo State Police Command says its operatives have rescued the travelers abducted by bandits on the Omi-Alafa Road in Ifon, Ose local government area of the state. 5 of the travelers, including some members of the National Youth Service Corps, were among the kidnapped victims rescued by the police. In a statement released on Monday, a police spokesperson in the state, Fumilayo Odunlami Omishonya, said the armed bandits abandoned victims in the forest after the police, led by a senior officer, mounted pressure on the kidnappers. The bandits had waylaid the travelers on the notorious Omi-Alafa Road in Ifon, Ose local government area of the state, killing 2 persons and abducting some corps members. Minister of Defense for State and former Governor of Zamfara State, Bello Matawalle, has described as baseless the allegations of terrorism leveled against him by a bandits kingpin, Bello Turji. In a video released on social media, Turji, a leader of a group of outlaws operating in northern Nigeria, blamed Matawalle of not handling insecurity effectively when he was governor of Zamfara State. Turji linked the escalation of banditry in Zamfara and other states in the northwestern part of the country to the policies rolled out by the administration of Matawalle when he was governor. Matawalle, in a statement through his media consultants, denied involvement in the terrorist activities, describing the claims as baseless and mere attempts to distract and discredit him. The statement said all arms seized, recovered and received from bandits were submitted at Government House, Gusau, and there is a record for it. More on security matters. Operatives of the Federal Capital Territory Police Command have arrested one Hashiru Baku, the mastermind behind the murder of late Brigadier General Harold Udokwere. Udokwere, who was the national chairman, retired members of the Nigerian Armed Forces, was murdered by armed robbers who invaded his residence on June 22, 2024 and took away his gun. The police arrested and paraded Ibrahim Rabiu, Nafiu Jamil, Aliyu Abdullahi, and Mohammed Nuhu in connection with the crime on June 24, 2024. Addressing journalists on Monday while parading arrested suspects, the FCT Commissioner of Police, Bennett Igwe, said Baku was arrested in Kano State while trying to run away from the country. The police boss added that instead of him to repent, he continued with more audacity. CP Igwe noted that illicit drugs were recovered from the suspect's residence. The Martin Amaewhule-led Rivers State House of Assembly has frowned at the continued stay in office of the caretaker committee chairman, despite a Supreme Court judgment declaring them illegal. The lawmakers want them arrested. At plenary on Monday, the leader of the House, Major Jack, informed the members of the certified true copy of the aforementioned Supreme Court judgment in his possession, which he laid before the Speaker. While presenting his report, the chairman of the House Committee on Local Governments, Ignatius Onwuka, raised an alarm over the continued activities of CTC chairman despite the Supreme Court judgment. In another submission, the member representing Andoni constituency, Ofix Kagbang, accused Governor Fubara of instigating anarchy. After voting, Amaewhule called on the police to arrest the caretaker committee chairman. wherever they were seen parading themselves as heads of local governments. He mandated the chairman of the House Committee on Information to inform residents of the state of their decision. Meanwhile, a federal high court in Abuja has declined to bar Governor Siminalayi Fubara from spending government funds, pending the hearing and determining the suit filed by the Martin Amaewhule-led Rivers State House of Assembly. Ruling on the motion ex parte, Justice Emeka Nwite declined to grant the prayers, though he ordered the plaintiffs to put the defendants on notice. Justice Nwite, however, granted the motion ex parte to serve the 5th to 10th defendants in the matter by substituted means, saying the judge further adjourned the matter to the 7th of August to hear the motion on notice. The court ruling comes after Fubara last week vowed to remain upright and never to govern the state on bended knees, no matter how much he's pushed politically. He said there was a fierce battle to destroy the soul of the state, but expressed optimism that he will win the battle with the support of well-meaning persons who are standing firmly with him. The Court of Appeal, sitting in Abuja and presided over by Justice A.M. Lamido, has reaffirmed the nomination of Asu Ighodalo as the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Edo State. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Lamido, the appellate court on Monday threw out an appeal brought by former Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu. Recall that Shaibu had challenged the May 27 judgment of Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, which declared Ighodalo as the rightful and duly nominated candidate of the PDP in Edo State. The appellate court held that the trial court was right and unassailable in its ruling, determining that Shaibu did not meet the condition precedent before instituting the action, rendering the suit premature. The court also affirmed the trial court's decision that Shaibu failed to prove his allegations of vote allocation against the respondent, noting that conduct of the election and its results are presumed regular until proven otherwise. Consequently, the court dismissed Shaibu's case and awarded a cost of 1 million naira against him in favor of the respective respondents. This is the News Hour coming to you live from Trust Television Studios. Still to come, we'll take a look at how application of technology is positively impacting financial inclusion in the country. We'll bring you more news when we return. Do stay with us. Welcome back and thank you so much for staying. Let's have another look at some of our top stories. Residents seek justice for slain woman in Kaduna State. Plus, police rescue abducted commuters in Ondo. And now moving on to more stories. The House of Representatives Joint Committee on Midstream and Downstream investigating alleged domestic production of substandard petroleum products, non-availability of crude oil to domestic refineries, and other related matters, has promised to carry out a thorough investigation by inviting all stakeholders to get to the root of the burning issue. Chairman of the Joint Committee, Ikenga Ugochinyere, stated this at the opening of the investigation on Monday. According to him, the committee will also conduct a legislative forensic investigation into the presence of middlemen in crude trading, indiscriminate issuance of licenses, alleged unavailability of international standard laboratories to check adulterated products, influx of contaminated products into the country, the allegation of non-domestication of profits realized from crude marketing sales in local banks, abuse of the PFI regime, importation of products already being produced in Nigeria, and use of international trading companies to resell fuel stock to local refineries at high markup prices.
We are committed to transparency, thoroughness, and accountability throughout this process that will help us to identify and resolve the underlying issue plaguing Nigerian petroleum sector. The committee is also urging stakeholders in the current dispute to de-escalate tension as the committee embarks on the great task of resolving the issue.
My dear colleague, Honorable Ikenga and I are fully committed to addressing the 8 areas of concern. The task ahead of us is undoubtedly challenging, but we are confident in the abilities of men and women within our committees to help us to discharge these duties. Their experiences, passion, and drive will be instrumental in achieving our set objectives. To the Nigerian public, we are giving you the assurance of our commitment to thoroughly and fearlessly address all issues raised within and by us, and with a great sense of responsibility.
I implore the rule of engagement to ensure that the pricing model from the oil producers does not hinder the domestic refineries. I also implore the Joint Petroleum Committee of Midstream and Downstream sectors to work together towards a convergence between the domestic crude oil supply obligation and the nation's energy security as it works with the sector regulators to re-engineer their respective regulatory processes to address the challenges.
Also, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Heniken Lokwagbari, and other stakeholders have held a meeting with the chairman and CEO of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, over issues surrounding the Dangote refinery. Dangote and Nigeria's regulatory authorities have been in dispute in recent weeks over the refinery located in the Ibeju-Lekki area of Lagos State. It reached a new high when the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority said the government was yet to license the refinery for the commencement of operations. But as part of moves to resolve the issues, Lokwagbari and other players in the oil and gas sector met with Dangote on Monday. In a statement by the Special Advisor, Media and Communication to the Minister, Nneamaka Okafor, those who attended the meeting include the Authority Chief Executive of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Gbenga Komolafe, and the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, Mele Kyari. They all thanked the Minister for his leadership and intervention in a bid to resolve the issues. And now to the National Assembly. The National Assembly has declared its readiness to come up with appropriate legislation that will guarantee the rights and privileges of domestic workers in Nigeria. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, gave the assurance in Abuja on Monday during the opening session of a public hearing on a bill seeking to provide for the documentation and protection of domestic workers and employers. The report.
The Senate President, who was represented by Senator Binus Yaro, said the bill seeks to ensure and preserve the inalienable rights of domestic workers in the country, adding that this category of workers have been subjected to various forms of abuse and molestation across the country. The Senate President stressed the need for all stakeholders to confront the grave injustice being meted on domestic workers in order to set them free from all forms of discrimination and molestation in the hands of the employers.
As a Senate committed to rectifying the wrongs in our society, we have come together today to discuss the bill to provide for the documentation and protection of domestic workers and employers and employees. This issue resonates deeply with me, having witnessed both the triumph of domestic workers breaking free from abuse and exploitation, as well as the tragedies of those submerged in neglect and despair.
He therefore declared the readiness of the 10th Assembly to collate the views and opinions of stakeholders and ensure the speedy passage of the bill for the welfare and well-being of domestic workers in the country. Other speakers at the event, including the Chairman, Senate Committee on Labour and Productivity, Diket Plank, and the Minister of Labour and Employment, represented by Ismaila Abubakar, highlighted the plight of domestic workers in Nigeria.
Either to the domestic worker or the employer of the domestic service, and the bill is intended that it becomes a law where the Ministry for Labour and Productivity will have a lot of role in documenting, standing in for, accounting for domestic workers employed in Nigeria. Even if the country reaches a level where domestic service can be exported, let it be in such a way that there is documentation.
Comprises a significant part of the global workforce in informal employment and is becoming the most vulnerable group of workers. The work for private household, often without clear terms of employment, unregistered and excluded from the scope of labor legislation. They often labor under harsh economic conditions, work long hours for low wages without benefits, with job security.
Other stakeholders equally made presentations and contributions on the bill, which is sponsored by Senator Babangida Hussaini.
The Jigawa State Governor, Umar Namadi, has called on organizers of the planned national protest against hardship in the country. According to Governor, who spoke during a meeting with security agency heads, community leaders, and other key stakeholders, such actions will not resolve Nigeria's pressing issues, but rather compound them, as hoodlums and other criminally minded people are likely to hijack the protests and wreak havoc.
During the meeting, which drew attendance from security officials, traditional and religious leaders, community representatives, civil society groups, business leaders, the Nigerian Bar Association, student unions, the Nigerian Labour Congress, and the media, Governor Namadi stressed that both national and state governments are working tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of Nigerians. Speakers of the event acknowledged that protests are not rooted in Islamic or Christian traditions, suggesting that hardships should be viewed as divine taste resulting from human transgressions. They called for divine intervention and urged Nigerians to pray for their leaders to guide the nation towards sustainable development. Governor Namadi reaffirmed the government's commitment to addressing the nation's challenges and highlighted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's temporary suspension of input duties on essential commodities for 5 months as a measure to ease the current hardships.
The best thing we'll do is we'll go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's do our self-assessment. Each and every one of us do a self-assessment of himself. What is he doing that is wrong between himself and his God? What is he doing which is wrong between him and the people he is ruling? What is even he is doing which is wrong between himself and his own family in the home? So let's evaluate all this and look at them and then start to think and get a remedy for all these problems. Those between you and your family, try to see how you can remedy it. Between you and those that you are leading, try to see how you can remedy it and be fair and just to them. And between you and your God, repent and ask for forgiveness from Allah. I'm sure once this is the first step we can deal with this problem. But the issue of protest will not solve this problem. The protest will compound this problem, and all the participants has agreed with that. That is not a solution. And you have heard everybody has confirmed that he will do his best to ensure that this protest do not happen.
Meanwhile, the military, police, and other paramilitary leaders have also pledged to collaborate with stakeholders to ensure that no protests take place in Jigawa State.
The 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has called for quick action to resolve the current economic crisis in the country. The call came as he expressed deep concern over the country's economic trajectory since 2015 in a series of tweets on Monday via X. In the post, he highlighted the contrast between Nigeria's economic performance in the early years of its return to democracy and its current state. He, however, pointed out that this growth was not sustained, with GDP growth collapsing to 2.79% in 2015 and the economy slipping into recession in 2016. In contrast, he noted that by 2023, Nigeria had fallen to the fourth largest economy in Africa, with a GDP of $375 billion and a per capita of $1,700. The former governor expressed alarm at the current state of affairs, saying poverty is presently pervasive and on the increase, while unemployment is rising, with food inflation hitting over 43%. He called for urgent action to prevent further economic collapse and move it from consumption to production. Stakeholders in the education sector have welcomed the age restriction placed on students before entering tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Trustee Viz Habibat Ajayi tells us more.
The federal government, through the Ministry of Education, sets 18 years as the new minimum age of admission into tertiary institutions in the country. Minister of Education Professor Tahir Mama says the law establishing the 6334 system of education in Nigeria supports these age limits. The minister, however, accepted 16 years as the admission age for the 2024-2025 academic section. Reacting, Educationist says the move by the federal government is a welcome development as it will help to curb bullying and other vices prevalent in schools.
The enforcement, I think it's quite easy because all admissions now go through JAMB, the Joint Admission Matriculation Board, and every applicant is expected to submit NIN, and the NIN will definitely show the age of birth and what have you. And it's a document that if you tamper with in the future, the candidate is affected because a Nigerian can only have one NIN number throughout your lifespan. So I think it's something that can be enforced if JAMB is really ready to enforce it.
Parents, however, calling for integration of skills acquisition centers as part of the curriculum to prepare students for the ever-competitive job market.
What I would recommend is maybe they spend 1 year, 2 years in the madrasa memorizing the Quran, learning Arabic, and if some parents that may not be able to do that, you can also send them out to learn skills. They can learn coding, robotics within those 2 years for them to mature enough before going to the university. They can also learn even art skills. They can learn how to bake. They can learn other art skills that even when they get into the university, they can use it. Apart from studying, can also be another avenue for revenue generation for the undergraduates going into the school. So I think it's not a bad policy, it's a good policy, and I'm hoping parents will understand the idea behind it.
This move by the federal government is geared towards aligning the education sector with global best practices. Habibat Ajayi, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The Nasarawa State Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps has arrested 3 suspects for allegedly burgling worship centers and stealing amplifiers, batteries, and microphones in different parts of the state. Assistant Public Relations Officer of the command, Muhammad Suraj, made this known while parading suspects in Lafia. The report.
Parading the suspect before newsmen, the command's assistant public relations officer Muhammad Suraj said the suspects have been burgling worship centers, particularly mosques, and carting away items. He said as a result of intelligence gathering and collaboration with the Nasrawa Youth Empowerment Agency NIA, the command apprehended the prime suspect, Dauda Muhammad, who usually visits mosques to steal these items and sell to his wanting buyers. He said the two other suspects, Simon Uwanfo and Ibrahim Peter, who were the buyers of the items, were arrested after the prime suspect identified them at different locations in the state.
We've succeeded in arresting 3 criminals, suspected criminals, who are here to be paraded today. Among them, we have the prime suspects in person of Dauda Muhammad, who specialized in burglary and theft. He broke into mosque and other worship centers, stealing some of the items there, made away with them. And we also have among them the accomplices who aid him in the crime by buying the stolen items from the mosque.
Suraj, who said the suspects will be charged to court after conclusion of investigation, maintained that the command would intensify efforts towards ensuring that the state is free of crime. On his part, the prime suspect, Dauda Muhammad, admitted committing the crime but attributes it to economic hardship in the country.
I used to go to mosques around Lafayette Metropolitan here and be stealing arms and battery.
What made you to do that?
It's because I don't have any work to do. I'm an orphan. That's the reason. I don't have just to do something to survive. That's what I used to do. That's why I used to do it.
He also informed to be an ex-convict who served a 2-year prison term in Umaisha Correctional Service after stealing some items in 2021.
And now to the southwest region of the country. Residents of Lagos State have urged the state government to implement laws emphasizing the importance of maintaining a clean environment for public health and overall well-being. To this end, they want the government to reinforce the monthly Saturday sanitation exercise in order to help keep the environment clean. Trust TV's Aishat Abdullahi reports.
There have been concerns about the effectiveness of environmental laws without proper enforcement. According to the residents, with effective implementation and collaboration between the government, market management and other relevant stakeholders, efforts to keep the state clean and healthier will reap better results.
As the Lagos State market here, they used to do their own environmental on Thursdays, but that Thursday is not enough. At least let the management of the market help government to make sure that environment is very good and clean. Because when your environment is neat, you cannot contact sickness or disease. So environment is a health. So I advise the market leaders and the organization and the people around, let them help the government to begin to sanitize the environment. Because as they are doing it, they are not helping the government so they are helping themselves.
Yeah, it's very good. Aside from having it every Thursday, last Saturday of every month is also good. So that, unlike now, there are issues of cholera, there are issues of, Lassa fever and what have you. So if they can implement it by, after the Thursday environmental and then have it at the end of the month, it is very good. You know, it will enhance, then force people to keep the environment clean. And then when the environment is clean, healthier the people becomes.
It can help a lot because all those plastic, all those water bottles, empties that blocks all those drainage, if they can pack it every Saturday, if water comes, it can have a way to flow down.
With the raining season already at its peak, the belief that apart from addressing issues of aesthetic and health, environment impacts like flooding will be addressed with proper desilting of gutters and drainages.
The community is calling on market leaders, stakeholders and residents to collaborate with the government in ensuring more cleanliness and also promoting public health in the states. Aishat Abdullah for Trust TV Lagos.
The need for collaborative efforts to fight surging cases of malnutrition among children in Bauchi State has been advocated. This is even as a group under the auspices of Doctors Without Borders says health facilities are overstretched in various communities and called for collaboration from stakeholders at all levels. Trustee Adamu Imam reports.
Representatives of Doctors Without Borders gathered in Bauchi during a meeting with staff members of the Primary Healthcare Agency and public health reporters as part of effort to arrest cases of malnutrition in Bauchi State. Some health workers and parents shared their experiences while attending community healthcare facility.
Hunger is the major contribution of malnutrition because from the inception of pregnancy, we don't usually eat balanced diets because of poverty. Whatever we can afford is what we eat to survive, regardless of our status as pregnant women. So after delivery, we discover that the babies are malnourished. However, we thank God for the little help we are getting at the primary health care. We always struggle to get what to eat, and this means that the pregnancy will have to survive on what we lay our hands on as food. Things are hard now because of the economy, and breast milk is not enough for the babies because the mother is already malnourished. The facility is always crowded on clinic days because of the number of cases of malnourishment. We always sensitize parents, especially mothers, on the need to be cautious when giving their children the RUTF and other measures before discharging them from the hospital. We team them to process locally made food for their children called Tom Brown, which is for those that are not severely malnourished.
The group is suing for more collaboration with state authorities and key stakeholders at the community level as well.
But to monitor the middle arm circumference, the MIAC, because it's an easy way to identify malnutrition of their children at home, so that there will be early detection of malnutrition even at home. And then from there, they will refer or they will inform those people working in the community, because we have a network of community health workers. So they will refer the patient to them so that we ensure that the management is properly done. So that's what we have in our plan.
Program designed by the federal. And now we realize that we are leaving the community. So they now extended integrated community monitoring of child illnesses as an integrated activity where you look at the child and see the child as a whole. If this child has diarrhea, if this child has pneumonia, if this child has other sickness, and then this child malnourished, you look at the child as a whole. Now, we are only training a healthcare worker. The essence of ICCM, Integrated Community Monitoring of Childhood, is to now involve community, involve traditional rulers, involve religious leaders, involve the development committee.
The State Healthcare Agency added that part of effort to address the menace is the proposed establishment of ready-to-use therapeutic food RUTF centers in major health facilities across the state. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
In the same vein, the governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, has said his administration will tackle the disturbing rise of acute malnutrition among children in the state. He stated this through the Commissioner for Budget and Planning during the signing of Memorandum of Understanding with UNICEF in Maiduguri. Trustee Vice Beatrice Kurutsi has more.
More than 500,000 children are reportedly suffering from acute malnutrition in the Northeast region in 2023. However, between January and March this year, the trend is around 40% higher than last year. The disturbing rise is the reason the state government is signing a memorandum of understanding worth $100,000. The funds will be used to address the problem of malnutrition among children and lactating women in Borno State.
We are witnessing the signing in for Borno State government to contribute in targeting the reduction of child wasting in the Sustainable Development Goal. As you may also be aware, the 25-year development plan is in line with the SDG. So anything we are doing that targets SDGs goal, we are also implementing that processes in the state.
There are 480,000 children who were treated with acute malnutrition across the Borno, Adamawa and Yobe state in 2023. And subsequently, there is an increase in the number of these children. Something tells us that there is an intervention which is needed. There is something that needs to be done. And I think it has come at a very opportune time.
With the agreement signed now, it is hoped that with the implementation of the project, thousands of malnourished children will no longer be vulnerable to diseases. Bitrus Kuruti, Trust TV News, Maiduguri.
Nigeria's e-payment platforms have recorded tremendous progress over the past few years, reflecting significant growth in the application of technology to payment transactions, according to economists and income management security experts. In 2023, the value of electronic payments on the Nigeria Interbank Settlement Platform reached approximately 60 trillion naira, and other e-payment platforms were nearing a total transaction value of 1 trillion naira.
The introduction of payment platforms like OPay, MoneyPoint, and PalmPay has brought a lot of diversity and innovative business opportunity to the market. These platforms have significantly improved financial inclusion in the urban and rural areas of the country, as people can easily open accounts and trade with one another. However, there are still challenges such as occasional complaints about the failure of e-payment transactions.
The best support we can get to support the e-payment system is to strengthen our IT infrastructure, our internet infrastructure, particularly the broadband. The fiber optic cables that they seek to lay around the country. And then that is the best support that the government can give. Then from a regulatory point of view, the central bank needs to ensure that these fintechs that are onboarding so many customers and so many citizens are also properly regulated.
We just need to actually look at what is the current problem, which is the issue of fraud around it, which is the issue of network, which is the issue of infrastructure. So, and we just need to actually tackle that from that, improve the internal security so actually prevent fraud, ensure that there are 2 levels of authorization. So before a transaction can actually be consummated. So it simply means that after you have tried to do a transaction, a token will be sent to the phone of the non-person, or maybe a token will be sent to your email for second confirmation to actually prevent fraud.
Residents of Lagos said electronic transactions significantly improve the flow of business transactions in the state.
E-payment is helpful and it reduces the queue at the bank. But the only thing I that is the charges. They are charging us more. When we receive money, they will charge us. When we send out, they will charge us. If they can reduce the charges.
I say that in-payment transaction is very good because it helps people to get access to their money at easiest rate, and for them to get move on with their business transactions. Unlike if you go to ATM machines sometimes great people, sometimes the network will not be available. So the network is flexible. So e-payment transaction is make people easier to access their money.
The e-payment system in Nigeria has significantly contributed to the growth and development due to increased level of financial activities among the people.
You're watching the News Hour tonight on Trust Television. We'll take a breather now. We'll be right back.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back and to more stories. The National Assembly has declared its readiness to come up with appropriate legislation that will guarantee the rights and privileges of domestic workers in Nigeria. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, gave the assurance in Abuja on Monday during the opening session of a public hearing on a bill seeking to provide for the documentation and protection of domestic workers and employees.
The minister encouraged Nigerians to make sacrifices in order to achieve their goals and support the government's effort to implement its programs and projects, emphasizing that collective sacrifice is necessary for the country's progress and development. The minister assured them that efforts are being made to address security concerns across the country. In the additional budgetary provision, 3.2 trillion naira is intended to provide equity contributions or counterpart contributions for priority projects and critical projects that require additional appropriation for the renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund. The other 3 trillion naira is intended to meet the newly proposed national minimum wage, among other things.
Is that we have to make sacrifices in order for our country to achieve the growth that it requires. Those countries whom we are teaching our children have achieved this, have achieved that. We should stop comparing them ourselves to where they are today. But what choices did they take in the past to bring them to where they are? We don't have to take draconian choices like that, but we have to make responsible choices.
In his opening address, Bichi tasked the minister to give details on the appropriation bill, including the 3.2 trillion naira capital expenditure increase and 3 trillion recurrent expenditure for the newly proposed national minimum wage transmitted by Mr. President for accelerated consideration. He observed that there is need for Nigerians to be adequately informed of the details of the proposed 6.2 trillion naira budget proposal, which is in addition to the 28.7 trillion naira appropriation as approved for the 2024 fiscal year.
The 2024 Renewed Hope Infrastructure Funds, as well as the recurrent submission by the Mr. President. From what we have the total of 6.2 trillion, which is 3 trillion recurrent and 3.2 trillion capital increase from the existing 28.7 trillion we passed in 2024 budget. So, Honorable Minister, Honorable colleagues want to have more light. I wanted to shed more light in respect of the presidential request of 6.2 trillion, and so that Nigeria can understand more about this important exercise we are doing.
Lawmakers applauded the government's efforts to address infrastructure deficits, but emphasized the need to address security issues.
We do apologize for the mix-up in that report. That report was actually that of the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, who has assured Nigerians that the federal government is committed to utilizing the additional 6.2 trillion naira budget to stimulate the economy through various infrastructure projects in the 2024 fiscal year. The projects include road and rail projects, water projects, and others. Bagudu was speaking at a meeting with the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation, chaired by Abubakar Bichi. And in business, let's now join Yusuf Akogu for the business news.
Welcome to Business News. I am Yusuf Akogu. According to industry data and forecast, the outlook for Nigeria's oil output, including condensate, remains gloomy at 1.4 million barrels per day in the second half of 2024. The output forecast is far below the 1.8 million barrels per day quota given to Nigeria by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, as well as the 1.7 million barrels per day stated as 2024 budget benchmark by the federal government. This indicates oil revenue shortfall of about 1 trillion naira against the 2024 budgetary expectations. The data obtained from Nigeria Upstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission June 2024 report, crude oil and condensate production indicated that on a month-on-month basis, the nation's oil output, excluding condensate, dropped by 2.3% to 1.25 million barrels per day in June 2024 from 1.28 million barrels per day in April 2024. OPEC also disclosed that Nigeria oil output, excluding condensate, remained flat in April and May at 1.2 million barrels per day. President of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, Francis Meshoye, has said that the policies of the federal government in the last 1 year have made manufacturing businesses unattractive in Nigeria. Measure United and manufacturers are worst hit by fuel subsidy removal, naira devaluation, electricity tariff hikes, and interest rate hikes in Nigeria. He lamented that the growth of manufacturing is seemingly not on the front burner of the federal government. Meshoe explained that the country's rising headline and food inflation, which stood at 34.19% and 40.87% in June, is majorly affected by food and energy price hikes. He stressed that Nigeria's interest rate, which stood at 26.25% in May 2024, is also a major hindrance to businesses in the country. Now, NGS opened the week trade in red as investors take profit. Let's see how the data went down. The leading the losers there is Royalex down 6.94% to close at 67 kobo per share. International Brewery is also down there 4.42% to close at 3 naira and 68 kobo per share. Of course, FCMB down 4.40% to close at 7 naira and 60 kobo per share. Of course, this has pushed down the market marginally though, 0.2% to say. A volume of trade 328.162 million shares, value at 3.571 billion naira in a deals of 8,622 lead exchanges among investors this Monday. Of course, the top trading equities in terms of volume, LRX lead that table there, 110.676 million shares traded. Universal Insurance 21.891 million shares. Of course, UCAP 20.065 million shares traded at the close of business today. Some equities ended on the gaining side of the market. NIMET lead that table there, 9.20% to close at 1 naira and 90 kobo per share. Of course, Tantalizer PLC 8.89% to close at 49 kobo per share. So of course, livestock are also up there 8.18% to close at 2 naira and 38 kobo per share there. And that's the highlight of stock trading as it went down this Monday on the floor of NGS. Let's see the global stock market and exchange rate data for today. Oil price dip on Monday after Joe Biden announced he will not seek a second term as U.S. president, while investors watch for more signs that U.S. interest rate cut could be as early as September. And the London market, Brent crude sells for $82 per barrel. For the OPEC basket, price increases to $85 per barrel. And that's business. I am Yusuf Akogu.
Thank you so much, Yusuf Akogu, for the business news. And now, away from Nigeria, dozens of fighters were killed in clashes on Monday in the southern tip of Somalia when Al-Shabaab militants tried to overrun 3 army bases, officials and the insurgent group said. A local security official said government forces repulsed the attacks and safely detonated 4 car bombs around 80 kilometers southwest of the port city of Kismayo in Jubaland state. Videos posted by Jubaland officials on social media showed at least 35 bodies in a mix of military fatigues near the village of Bologzaji. The government and Al-Shabaab often provide widely different accounts of the casualties on each side. Farah Hussein, a military official, said 5 soldiers were killed. Al-Shabaab said on an affiliated radio station that it had stormed the bases and killed dozens of soldiers. The Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab has been fighting to impose a strict form of Islamic law throughout the country since 2007. And in sports, we'll join Emmanuel Fashemi for the sports news.
The 2024 Bauchi State Sports Festival has been rounded off in the state. The festival is one of many initiatives aimed at reviving the spirit of sportsmanship while also serving as a platform for discovering new talents from all 20 local governments in the state, giving them the opportunity to showcase their skills and compete at a higher level. This competition has revived the state sports culture and established a standard for upcoming events involving the various ethnic groups in the state. The 2024 edition of the Bauchi State Sports Festival has discovered young talent that will represent the state in various competitions in near future. Declaring the festival closed at the Sir Abubakar Tafawa Sports Complex, the Commissioner for Sports and Youth Development, Mohammed Salis Gamawa, declared that the festival will be an annual sports fiesta. The commissioner expressed delight that the event has rekindled the spirit of sportsmanship among youths in the state. He said that Bauchi State Sports Festival has showcased the immense talent and unity within our state and beyond. Sports administrators and stakeholders across the state graced the event as well as top government officials, including the media. At the end of the 10-day competition, Kifi local government area emerged overall winners as it topped the medal table, while Akaleri local government area won the football gold medal. Mohammed Bashira, captain of the overall champions of the festival, said dedication and focus ensured victory for them.
We can say it's determination. You know, when you find yourself in any competition or festival like this, one thing one will do is to itemize his goal. Once you itemize your goal, then you determine your goal. So this is the reason behind our being victorious today in this 2024 Bauchi State Sports Festival. And moreover, we have a very dedicated and gallant chairman for the local government, which is Right Honorable Umar. All this success today that you are seeing is based on his performances and support.
Some of the games that took place on
Farah, then, that's about the size of the package tonight on News Hour on Trust Television. Do not forget, you can always follow us across all of our social media platforms and also join our YouTube live stream for more news, programs and documentary. I am Aisha Salihu. Thank you so much for your time. Join us again.